Mr. Joshua Boone, thank you for handing in this animation for me to take a look at. You've been very patient waiting for it, and hopefully you get what you're looking for with this feedback. I know it's super important to get a second set of eyes, especially when you've been looking at it over and over again. Like you said, you've rewatched this a lot of times, and you need a fresh perspective. So hopefully this review will give you that. So let's take a look. Let's jump over to my desktop. We'll take a look at it and we'll dig in. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. I know that you are a student and you're an aspiring game animator. So I think this exercise is a really good one for you because game animation is all about body mechanics. So I think it's a very, very challenging animation because there's a lot of physicality here, and there's a physicality between two characters. I don't believe you need to be able to show this. I think this is extremely advanced. You said you're an intermediate student. This is something that would make a senior animator cringe. So just FYI, I sympathize. You said that you've been working on this for a long time. You're having a hard time seeing where the mistakes are. That's normal. You're a student, and this takes a lot of time. One thing I will say up front, and I sound like a broken record because I say this on just about every review, use reference. And if you are using reference, great. But then we should probably talk about how you're using it, because there are a number of critical body mechanical issues that are here that would be easily addressed by studying reference. So I'm going to try to call them out so that you're aware of them. But I need you to get in the habit of doing this, because if at a student level, the most important thing for you to do is to spend time understanding how humans move, like the human movement. And the best way of doing that is just to use a lot of reference. This reference is going to give you the insights you need, and it's going to give you the experience you need to one day no longer rely 100% on the reference. But don't be in a rush. A lot of people, for whatever reason, especially in the game industry, like I don't know what they're teaching everybody in school these days, but they're not putting a big enough emphasis on reference. It's amazing what you'll learn by looking at reference. It's all there. That's the best teacher you have available to you. You just have to break it down, study it, understand it. So let's take a look at some of these issues. I'll just call them out one by one now that I've covered the elephant in the room about the reference. Let's take a look at little pieces, one little step at a time. So right here, completely rigid head. Our heads tend to focus on things. They don't just move with our bodies. What you're seeing here is it's like he's wearing a neck brace. Nobody moves like this. Nobody, unless their head is literally constrained with a neck brace or something similar. So when I scrub here, you'll see what I'm talking about. His whole head, like he pivots here a little bit, but like right here, see this? He just, like his whole body pivots. Head's not stabilized at all. This makes him feel like a statue or inebriated in some way. Like people, like the head, when I move back like this, I wouldn't do this. This wouldn't happen. It would look more like my head would want to stabilize and stay level with the horizon so that I can be balanced and aware of my surroundings. Next, make sure you use the entire spine when moving the upper body. You're only pivoting the hips. I don't know if you're aware of this, but look at this. Literally the entire upper body, the entire spine and head is rigid, and you're just rotating the hip. Again, nobody moves like this. Study reference and you'll see the entire spine will be working with the hips in order to maneuver. And normally you won't see just a pivot like this. Normally when the weight goes back like this, like it's very rare for me just to pivot. What's happening here, which you can't really see because it's off camera, is my pelvis is shoving forwards. That is in order to counterbalance all the weight going behind my heels. I need something in front of my feet to help pull my weight forward so I don't fall backwards. Extremely important. Again, reference. Study the crap out of it, and you'll pick up on these little details if you open your eyes to it. There's some awkward lines of action that are running through here. Like the pose is just like there's no nice flow to it. It feels awkward and difficult. and not graceful. I would highly recommend you pick up any of the books by Mike Matesi. You can find them on Amazon. They are a godsend. They are basically what I would call maybe the new flavor of lines of action. Lines of action. You could also go do some research on learning about lines of action. It's basically what I feel like Mike Matesi is really talking about with his leading edge, but it's a little bit more tuned to animation and movement. So I would highly recommend you start there. I think it's a very, 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 I think how many books he's got, but he's got a number of them and they're very, very good. All of them. I think I own all of them. Pick one up, study it cover to cover. You'll thank me later. Trust me. Posing characters is not easy. There is an art to it in itself. There's like animation and there's posing. They are connected, but they're also two very separate disciplines. And so don't expect to just get good at animation by animating. I think that you need to also flex those muscles. Some people have a knack for it. Some people need to work at it. It can be learned, but you got to start somewhere. And I think a good place to start is with someone with as much experience as Mike Matesi. He's, I think, one of the best out there and doing a very good job explaining it. Okay. Would have been more interesting to show contact between the punch and the shield. I don't know if you were trying to show contact here. Like I'm a little unsure. Like it looks like he puts the shield up as if he's going to block, but then he like tries to like, it just feels like if you're going to bring the shield up, I think what we're expecting is to use the shield, but then he kind of moves to, and then, but then the hand goes through it, but then I don't see any physical interaction. This kind of stuff is going to end up getting you killed in an interview because it's like, it feels like you're not in control of the scene. It feels like you don't really know what you're trying to show here because there's a bunch of decisions that don't really collaborate with one another. And then there's no commitment to like the fact that the hand's going through the shield. So I would say, just ask yourself, what do you want here? Do you want him to dodge? Well, then make sure that he swings and misses. Do you want him to actually strike the shield? Which makes more sense to me because he's putting the shield up. That's, if you're going to bring the shield up, you be prepared to use it, basically. That's more interesting, and it also allows for a nice opportunity to show that interaction, which is going to look nice if you commit to it. There is a downwards motion that comes out of nowhere while all the momentum is moving forward on the punch. This is on the enemy here. So I want you to notice this. Watch the momentum going forward here. It's also like, it's interesting because the hip stopped moving forward. On a punch, the hip would continue to move forward until the arm starts to catch up with it. The hips kind of stop and then the arms kind of move on its own, which is kind of interesting. Then you see that the hip will go forward again as if the arm is pulling him forward. The hips go up and forward and then suddenly down and then back up again. They kind of just vibrate. Momentum has this habit of being, needing to be preserved. There's a physical concept called inertia, which basically dictates that like a momentum kind of wants to continue doing its thing. And whether that is like a big heavy object, the bigger the mass, the more inertia there is. So big heavy things tend to want to stubbornly keep doing whatever they were doing a moment before. Like if they're moving, like a freight train, they have a hard time stopping. If a freight train is sitting there parked for a really long time, well, it doesn't matter how long, but just parked with no movement, they want to get going. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of time to get going. That is inertia at play. Any mass in motion is going to exhibit some sort of form of inertia. And that really means that it needs to keep on flowing in the direction it was unless an actual strong force is acted upon it. Here, there hasn't been any force acted upon the character's hips. So I don't understand why it doesn't follow through like it should. Instead, it just stops and goes up and then goes down and then backwards. Like it's just moving all over the place where it should be flowing. It should be continuing to follow through. You can see it right here, right? Goes kind of stops, then goes up and forward, and it goes down suddenly, and then goes back up again. So, where in reality, all that force here should have had him kind of following forward continuously and then recovering. Leading with the fist. Watch out for this kind of stuff here. I feel like first of all, some reference would be really handy because when I'm set up like this to punch and I'm going to punch with my right hand, okay, I will typically step with my left foot, okay, lead with the opposite foot because you're going to swing across it, okay? What you're doing here is you're stepping with the foot that should be driving your hips. This is the thing. Your hips are not like right now. I don't understand what's driving the hips because that foot's coming off the ground. Nothing driving the hips forward now. So that's the reason why that back foot is typically going to stay on the back on the ground as you drive forward. Also, it feels kind of like the hand gets out in front, like the foot hasn't even planted yet, and so it doesn't have like it can't like the weight can't shift onto onto the foot, and then the arm follow behind. You just have to look at some reference. You'll see what I'm talking about. The hip, like there's like lots of mechanical things that just don't work here. And that's because I don't think you studied how a punch works. I think you're doing this out of your head. I apologize if you're looking at reference, but if you are looking at reference, I'd love to see it because people don't typically punch like this. There is a way of punching. There's a typical type of body mechanic that's used. Like I said, that back foot needs to be there. There's a bunch of things that need to happen that aren't happening here. So that's why the whole thing's falling apart a little bit. So reference. Don't animate out of your head. Your head doesn't know yet. You need to spend time looking at movement and recording it and understand and executing on it. And eventually you're just going to start to build a library and you won't need me or the reference anymore because you will know. Right now you don't know. You're making assumptions. And I know that sounds really personal, like an attack on you. This is common. The reason why I'm so emotional about it is because I see this all the time. So hopefully what I'm saying will shake you enough to make you realize, holy crap, I totally am. I'm totally doing exactly what he said. Look, why? Why am I doing that? And then stop doing that and then start looking at reference and then learn for maybe really truly learn movement for maybe the first time. And you will be impressed with what happens. Money back guarantee. You gotta look at the reference. Because I'm not telling you anything that you would learn if you took a really good look at reference. That's the whole point I'm trying to make here. Everything you need to know is right there. Make sure Kratos follows all the way through on the punch. So we get here. And it isn't like his upper body stays like it doesn't swing all the way through. It looks like his arm tries to, but it doesn't look like his upper body's going with him. So that feels a little bit odd. Kratos needs to focus on his enemy. His head is still kind of moving with his body here, and it's doing a lot of this kind of stuff rather than if I'm trying to attack you, my eyes are going to stay on you all the time. Leading with the arm again. So another example where the arm is sort of leading, and again, you're taking the foot, the one that should be driving the hip forward is coming off the ground. You're stepping with the wrong foot. Any kind of punch, swing, throw, they all work the same way. You're going to position yourself in a way that allows for a foot that's behind you will be driving. And it's usually the arm on that same side of the body that's going to drag behind it, behind the hips that are being pushed and thrusted with that back foot. And then it's sort of like a catapult. The arm is going to then swing past and through once that forward foot plants, and then the weight can pivot across it, or the momentum. So making the same mistake, again, reference. Not sure I understand the reaction on the enemy here. The pushback seems very late relative to Kratos' swing, and I don't see the impact at all. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you can see the swing happen, but then it swings right through him. But then I don't feel like if you struck me in the upper body with a shield, my whole body won't just move backwards. It's gonna get hit like I'm gonna see the impact on the chest. And then it's going to drag the rest of my body backwards. Here, it just feels like his whole body just gets pulled, like there's like a wind that just blows him backwards. So I think you need to, again, it comes down to body mechanics. Also, take a quick note to look at this awkward foot angle here. There's some really weird things going on with the knees and how he feels contorted. The enemy gets magically stuck in the air before Kratos comes in contact with him. So he jumps here, right here. Then he slows kind of into this pose in the air. Then in midair, before Kratos even contacts him, he starts to move backwards while in the air, almost as if to anticipate the kick. Okay. And then the Kratos kind of kicks, but he doesn't follow through. He kicks, but then for some reason, in the beginning, you see the body moving backwards here with the foot, but then the body stops for 2 frames, and then Kratos isn't able to follow through. So there's a bunch of weird forces that are going on here that I don't fully understand. And I think it needs to be thought through a little bit more logically to make sure that, an impact happens. And once that impact happens, it produces a momentum, and that momentum needs to be, maintained, and it can't just stop in midair. Otherwise, it looks weird. Kratos is not in a position to thrust forward here. Make sure his weight is in front of his left foot so he can thrust forwards. So in this position, his weight is behind him. He only has leverage to push upwards and backwards, but he's able to somehow thrust forward here. My question is, where's that forward thrust right here coming from? The leg needs to be in a position, like his foot would have to be back here in order to be able to thrust like that. So that like you could see, like you could draw a line from the ankle to the hips. And then now you can, like, there's that vector there. But as you can see, the line is here, which means you only have like a kind of a backwards and up vector. It's always about positioning the hips and the upper body relative to the foot on the ground to be able to have that vector of thrust that you need. Right now, that's just that it hasn't, you haven't set that up properly, so that it doesn't make sense that thrust can be created. Kratos' leg / foot doesn't properly follow through on the kick. I think we already talked about that. Kind of gets stuck there like this. Kind of wants to follow through here, but then it kind of gets bent, and then it just kind of, I don't know. It's just very strange what's going on there. I don't know if you're trying to do like a hit hold or something like that we do in video games sometimes, but it's not reading, I think, the way you want it to. The enemy's body comes to a strange halt. Like he collides with the ground. There's a lot of like contorted poses here. Like he strikes, there's a frame that already hits, and then it's a static frame here, and then there's this C curve that goes up, like goes forward, but then that momentum stops. You can't have like a C curve like bounce off the wall and then just get stuck. That is now new momentum that needs to follow through. It didn't go anywhere. It just kind of goes like this and then just collapses back. The other thing that happens is he goes forward here, and there's not really like a proper slump and fall to the ground here. He just sort of like goes forward and then becomes very, very static very, very quickly. I don't feel like the body is coming to a proper rest. All this weight of the upper body going on the knees, no effect on the legs. So not an easy thing to animate. This is very challenging, to be honest. So like, take this for what it's worth. Only moving Kratos' hips here. So we'll see his hips, the only thing moving here. The whole like body is basically like there's a little bit of movement on the head, but otherwise it's just the hips moving upwards, which that's not how bodies move. We tend to move our entire body. We use all of the body parts that we have at our disposal rather than just one singular part. And a last little comment here is no movement in the spine right here. You can see like his whole upper body is like, again, rigid. It's all pivoting here from the hips. There's no real twisting or bending or anything going on with the spine. So I know this is probably felt like I was drinking from the fire hose here. There was obviously a lot to talk about. I didn't get too much into the details at the end because I ran out of time, but I hope that the main message is clear, and that is use reference. And I'm such a broken record. I don't say this to be a jerk. I don't say this to be mean. I'm saying this because I honestly care, and I know that you're going to get better faster by using reference. And if you are, then let me know. Email me and tell me that, yeah, I'm using reference. I don't know why it's not helping, because I think what's happening is maybe you don't know how. And that's normal. I see this all of the time. People don't know what to look for. They don't know how to leverage this amazing resource that can be quickly harvested from the phone that you have in your pocket. You could go record some reference, put it on video, and then study it. But you need to know how to study it. And I get that. And I appreciate that. I do believe I've done a number of, I think that you can find some stuff on Agora.Community where I've walked you through my process. I call it Anatomy of an Action. If you take a look on Agora.Community, you'll find at least a bunch of recordings. I did some live streams a while back where it kind of walks you through it. I was using like a Metroid rig. So that might be helpful. That might be a good place to start if you want a refresher or you want some perspective on how you can use reference. Because I break it down. I show you what poses am I looking for, and I kind of walk you through step by step. And the animation I ended up with at the end wasn't amazing because I was live streaming, but I think it gets the idea across pretty clearly. thanks for bringing this in to my inbox here. I haven't been doing reviews in a while. It was a nice, refreshing, nice breath of fresh air to look at somebody who's clearly very passionate about animation. He's working Joshua, working their butt off on a piece of animation. My recommendation is, yes, like pick up like Mike Matesi book. Absolutely, learn more about posing. Definitely use reference, study it, break it down, recreate what you see. And I would also say maybe stick to some exercises that are this is very difficult. I think you're swinging up maybe a little higher outside of your weight class here. And that's because you're a student and you're doing something that a senior animator would be like scared of. So like maybe I feel like looking at this, you'd be better off bringing it back down here and focusing on something that's a simpler exercise. Like just to basically just show me that you can throw a good punch. Just do that. Just practice punches, get reference, shoot it, find it, whatever you need to do, break it down and just animate a punch. Just a basic cycle of a punch. Do that until you are nailing it. Only then should you start kind of graduating into something that's as complex as two characters interacting like this. This is not easy. You need to really learn how to crawl before you learn how to fly. So thank you, sir. I will, hopefully this was helpful, and stay animated. Cheers.